Tragedies involving violent actions, particularly those committed by children or young adults, often leave us searching for answers. How could this have happened? Why didn't someone step in before it was too late? Too often, society looks for a convenient scapegoat, blaming evil forces for these horrifying events rather than addressing the root causes that might have been preventable. One of the most troubling aspects of these situations is the fact that many perpetrators had been on law enforcement's radar for years before they acted. When a child or young adult has been monitored by the FBI or other agencies, it raises the obvious question, why didn't we intervene sooner? Why weren't resources and support offered to that individual and their family before tragedy struck? It's uncomfortable but vital to recognize that attributing these acts to evil allows us to shirk responsibility for facing real issues we could address if only we had the will to do so. Spotting the signs early. The truth is, signs of trouble often appear long before a child or young adult resorts to violence, but far too frequently they are ignored. I know this from personal experience. I was bullied every single day in school, and my grades and attitude reflected my inner turmoil. Yet, not once was I offered counseling or support. The school had counselors, but they either didn't notice or simply didn't care enough to step in. I remember feeling an overwhelming desire to make those who hurt me suffer. Thankfully, I could not bring myself to harm anyone, but not every child or adult has the ability to process their pain and trauma in a healthy way. When children are bullied, isolated, or mentally distressed, their behavior often reveals what's happening inside: changes in grades, withdrawal from activities, shifts in personality. These are signs that should not be ignored. And yet, the system seems ill-equipped to act on these signals until it's too late. In a world where mental health struggles are often stigmatized or overlooked, it's no wonder that so many fall through the cracks. Addressing the real issue: mental health. Mental illness is real. It's all around us. And it's not just children and teenagers who suffer silently. Many adults carry traumas that they may not even fully recognize in themselves. The truth is that almost all of us have wounds that affect the way we see the world and interact with others. Rather than waiting for something terrible to happen and then casting blame on evil forces, we need to confront the uncomfortable truth. These individuals are often struggling with untreated or inadequately addressed mental health issues. Some may feel so powerless in their own pain that they lash out in violence. The signs were there, but we failed to act. So, what can we do? First, we must prioritize early intervention, particularly in schools. Counselors and teachers should be trained not just to address academic performance, but to be attuned to the emotional well-being of students. It isn't enough to assume that children will grow out of their troubles or figure it out on their own. Sometimes the damage is too deep for them to handle alone, and they need support from professionals, family, and community members. For those already on the radar of law enforcement or mental health professionals, greater efforts should be made to provide counseling and family interventions before situations spiral out of control. We cannot afford to ignore the red flags. Moving beyond blame, choosing compassion over fear. Why is it that we seem so eager to blame evil for these acts of violence instead of something tangible? Maybe it's because it's easier to externalize the problem, to point to something dark and beyond our control. But in doing so, we miss the opportunity to look at ourselves and our communities. If we continue to evade the deeper issues, trauma, mental illness, bullying, and isolation, these events will only worsen. Instead of clinging to the idea that some unseen force is responsible for the violence, we should turn to something more concrete: love. Love can be a powerful tool for healing, but it must be actively shown and used. It's not enough to say that we care about each other. We must take steps to ensure that everyone, especially our children, feels loved, supported, and understood. Imagine a world where we actively seek out those who are hurting before they hurt others. A world where schools, families, and communities work together to spot the signs of distress and intervene with compassion and care. If we commit ourselves to addressing mental health openly and without stigma, we can prevent future tragedies. The solution is not invisible or unattainable, it is within our grasp, if only we choose to act. Let's stop blaming the unseen and start focusing on what we can change. Love is not invisible, it's all around us, and if we harness its power, we can begin to heal our world.